In the middle of a very hot summer many years ago, a young person sat in front of a glowing computer screen for hours. There was no cool air in the room, but there was a world of digital possibilities waiting inside that machine. This was the early internet. It was a place where you could create a small pixelated version of yourself and walk through virtual deserts that felt endless. In this quiet digital space, a connection happened. It was a simple conversation with a stranger that turned into a deep friendship. Even though the details were not entirely true, the feelings were very real. They talked about music and shared their days until one day the connection simply stopped. This experience of meeting someone random and then losing them is something many people recognize. It represents a time when the internet felt like a vast open field where anything could happen. We often look back at these moments not just with sadness but with a sense of wonder. We wonder where that magic went. Today, the digital world feels very different from those early days. It is faster and much more crowded. We are constantly surrounded by new trends that seem to appear and disappear in the blink of an eye. One day everyone is talking about a specific type of food or a new style of clothing, and the next day it is forgotten. It feels like we are on a fast-moving train and we cannot see the scenery because it is moving too quickly. This speed creates a strange kind of pressure. We feel like we have to keep up or we will be left behind. But the more we try to keep up, the less we actually see. The internet has become a place where programs decide what we should like before we even know we like it. This takes away the element of surprise. In the past, you had to search for things. You had to wander through messy websites and quiet forums to find a community. Now everything is handed to us on a silver platter, but it often feels empty. We are losing the joy of discovery because the walls around our digital lives are getting higher. Everything is organized and polished, which makes the world feel smaller. When we look deeper, we see that the internet has moved from being a shared playground to a series of private rooms. In the beginning, the internet was messy and often broken. You had to wait for pictures to load and buttons did not always work. But that messiness was actually a good thing. It meant that the people who were there really wanted to be there. They were willing to deal with the slow speed to find a connection. Today, the internet is very smooth and efficient. It is designed to keep us scrolling for as long as possible. This efficiency has a hidden cost. It removes the friction that once allowed for spontaneous meetings. We no longer stumble upon things by accident. Instead, we are guided down a narrow path by mathematical formulas that think they know us. This creates a bubble where we only see ideas and people that match what we already believe. It is a comfortable place, but it is also a lonely one. We are surrounded by millions of people, yet we often feel more isolated than ever. We miss the feeling of being a little bit lost because being lost is how we find new things. To find that old feeling again, we have to look for the corners of the internet that still feel a little bit wild. There are still places where people gather just because they share a very specific interest. These are spaces where nobody is trying to become famous or sell a product. They are just people talking about strange buildings or bad food or old hobbies. These groups are like small islands in a vast ocean of noise. In these quiet spaces, the rules of the modern internet do not seem to apply. People are more honest and less worried about how they look to others. It is a reminder that the human desire for connection is stronger than any program. We can still find that sense of community if we are willing to step off the main path. We can choose to spend our time in places that do not feel like a competition. This requires us to be more intentional about where we go. Online. It means looking for quality over quantity and depth over speed. If we can do that, we might find that the spirit of the early internet is still alive in small ways. Another way to break out of our digital bubbles is much simpler than we might think. It involves the people who are sitting right next to us. Each of us has a completely different experience when we look at our phones. Our feeds are like mirrors that reflect only our own interests. If you look at a friend's phone, you might see a world you never knew existed. They might be watching videos about a hobby you have never heard of or listening to music from a different country. This simple act of sharing what we see can break the spell of the formulas. It brings back the randomness that we used to find in the early days. It reminds us that there is a whole world outside of our own little circle. By talking to our friends about their digital lives, we can begin to see the internet through their eyes. This creates a bridge between our separate worlds. It turns a solitary activity into a shared experience. We can start to reclaim the internet as a place for genuine human interaction. We do not have to be passive consumers of content. We can be active explorers who seek out new perspectives. This does not mean we have to give up our technology. It just means we should use it in a way that serves our human needs for curiosity and friendship. Imagine if we treated our time online like a walk through a new city. Instead of following a map, we could just turn down a random street and see what we find. We could talk to strangers and listen to their stories. We could allow ourselves to be surprised by something beautiful or strange. This sense of play is what is missing from our current digital lives. We have become so focused on being productive and staying informed that we have forgotten how to explore. We can bring back that sense of wonder by being a little more adventurous. We can join a group that has nothing to do with our job. We can ask a family member to show us their favorite website. We can embrace the glitches and the slowness. By doing these things, we are choosing to value the human element over the machine. We are saying that our connections are more important than the speed of the feed. The internet was once a place of infinite possibility, and it can be that way again. It just takes a little bit of effort to look beyond the walls that have been built around us. We can return to a time when the digital world felt like a big exciting mystery. We can find our own version of that sunset landscape where we can meet people and share ideas freely. It is about finding the joy in the unexpected. It is about being willing to get a little lost so that we can be found. The magic of the internet was never in the technology itself, but in the people we found there. If we remember that we can make the internet feel like home again, we can move away from the noise and back toward the quiet moments of real discovery. We can choose to be curious instead of just being busy. This shift in perspective can change everything about how we live our lives online. It can turn a stressful experience into a source of inspiration. We have the power to shape our own digital future by looking back at what made the past so special. We can take the best parts of those early days and bring them into the present. We can be more spontaneous and more open to the world around us. In the end, the internet is what we make of it. If we want it to be a place of connection and wonder, we have to be the ones to create those moments. We can start today by simply reaching out to someone or looking at something new. We can rediscover the thrill of the unknown. We can be brave enough to step into the digital wilderness once more. As we move forward in this fast world, we should pause and think about how we connect with others. What would happen if we stopped following the path that was made for us and started finding our own way through the digital forest?